Hey everybody, and welcome back to Storytime with Angel. Today we have our second installment of the stories from the Mischief Corner Books Quarterly, the first edition of the Quarterly, which is an e-magazine that we've just released that has LGBT fiction in it. This is short fiction that's not something that you normally see from a romance publisher. But the fiction that might have some trouble getting placed otherwise with the romance market out there. We read Facsimile from Mina McLeod on Tuesday, and that was a lesbian horror short that I particularly enjoyed. That was a really shivery story. Today we have something that is a little bit different. This is a contemporary story by Bridget Collins. And I don't want to tell you too much about the story because it is short, and I'm going to read a very short excerpt from it. But to tell you too much about it would be to give away a lot. I do want to warn you that this is about a young person who is very angry, the reasons for which you'll see when you read the story. So there's a lot of cussing in even this short excerpt. But it's completely in character. It's completely understandable when you do read the story why this young person feels the way they do about their life and the world. I am wearing my MCB shirt today. This is our crew, just to show you guys. This was done for us by Catherine Dare, who does a lot of illustrating for us. She's wonderful. And each of the members of the Mischief Corner Books crew got their own animal avatar, kind of according to their personality and who they are. So we have our red squirrel, of course, is Freddie McKay. Everybody knows Freddie's the squirrel. The gray cat, with the gray and white cat, that's me. The platypus here in the middle, that's Tony Griffin Platypus, of course. Since she's our Australian, she wanted to be a platypus. The wolf in the back there, that's Andy Anderson. Our owl here, that's Sylvia Violet. Anybody who knows Sylvia knows why the owl is appropriate. And our turtle here is Matt Watson, who wanted to be a turtle. So this is the MCB crew. And we do have more of the quarterly coming out later this year. We're working on putting the second one together right now. But, take a look at the first. It's a magazine format, so there are columns and interviews in these magazines as well as the stories. It's a format that we kind of thought had been missing for a while. There used to be e-magazines out there. They've kind of fallen by the wayside, and it's a really nice format to put a lot of things together into one place. And since this really does focus on LGBT fiction specifically, we didn't see another place where that was really happening. But for today's excerpt, this is Man of the House by Bridget Collins. And once again, this is a contemporary short story that's in that first issue of the MCB Quarterly. So, some inconsiderate ascetic had hit a skunk on the road in front of our house. The god-awful stench woke me before my alarm, which I suppose I could have chosen to see as a blessing. For some reason, all I could focus on was the way skunk scent stuck in the back of my throat. Luckily, I wasn't much of a breakfaster. God, it was bad. I hadn't opened my eyes yet, but the darkness of pre-6 o'clock in the morning pressed against my lids. That and the soft warmth of my bed whispered to me, urging me to roll over, press my face into the pillow, and pretend the dead critter out there was a squirrel. Those little bastard thieves deserved to get hit, and they didn't stink up the neighborhood when they died. But rolling over and pretending wasn't what the man of the fucking house would do. I didn't even have to go through my usual cycle of what would Dad do to know that. A man did what needed to be done, and that was that. No use bitching about it now either. Dad was gone, and there was no getting him back. Someone still had to do the stuff that needed done, and I figured out months back that it wasn't going to be Derek. I flopped my arm out from the blankets and around my nightstand until I managed to get my finger on the alarm switch. That taken care of, I sat up and cracked my eyes open. A red 5:23 burned out of the shadows of my room, and I groaned. Look on the bright side. This gives you time to deal with the skunk without making you late for school. God, I hated when my perky side woke up before me. It usually took coffee to bring that out these days. I didn't think I'd be able to manage a cup this morning, though not with the skunk smell crawling through every orifice. I stumbled through the motions of getting up, tear the covers off quick like a Band-Aid, hop, step, and lurch barefoot across the cold floorboards to the dresser. First priority was some thick socks. I couldn't put a rug in here because of my habit of eating in bed. Sweeping was easier than vacuuming. Pull some cargo pants on. Thank whoever the fuck invented extra warm flannel lining. Grab the first hoodie I could find in the drawer. A little more awake now, I moved down the hall to the bathroom. Drag a comb across my head and hum a verse of A Day in the Life. Okay, I skipped the fucking humming today on account of the fact that every breath came as eye-watering agony thanks to the damn skunk. By the time I trudged down the stairs, skipping the creaking fifth step, Derek would throw a fit if I woke him up with that noise again. My head spun from the effort of not breathing. You'd think Derek would wake himself up the way his snoring shook the foundation. Granted, the house was old, and kittens farting made the china rattle, but the guy slept louder than a low-flying F-18. I remembered the sound from the air show Mom, Dad, and I went to when I turned 9. The planes tore white lines across the blue sky and screamed their thunderous roars. One flew so low over our heads I thought it would bury itself in the strip of tarmac and explode in a billion pieces. Derek felt like that plane to me, and not just because of his jet engine snoring. His freeloader deadbeat lifestyle had him hurtling towards the ground, and it was only a question of who he would take out with him when the crash finally came. I tiptoed past the living room when he was draped over the sagging floral print sofa. At least Mom didn't let him spend the night in her bed, but God, I still couldn't wrap my head around why she let him into our lives at all. He makes me feel like a woman was a bullshit reason. You didn't need anybody else to make you feel like your fucking gender. Especially not some lazy asshole like Derek. The only real reason I could imagine she kept him around was that she thought having any sort of boyfriend would keep people from seeing her as a lonely old widow. Fine by me, I guess, but she wouldn't have put up with this kind of shit from Dad. Then again, she wouldn't have had to. She should have picked someone who could take care of her instead of making her pick up extra shifts at the diner. I did my best to supplement our income. I'd asked myself what Dad would do about our money issues and came up with the answer pretty easily. He'd have taken a second job. So that's what I did. Even though what I really wanted to do was kick Derek's lazy freeloading ass to the curb. The man of the house had to be fucking compassionate after all. Someone had to take care of Mom, you know? And Derek wasn't going to do it. Not properly. I'm pretty sure his definition of taking care of her consisted entirely of his nighttime duties. Just let me fucking puke now. Not that I lacked for examples of deadbeat men, but if I ever felt the need for more, I could just look at Derek. I passed the room and couldn't help but see him sleeping, his boxers halfway down his ass, shafts of moonlight from the opening in the curtains highlighting the crack between his pasty, flabby cheeks. His arm was raised over his head, and the stark yellow outlines of crusty sweat stains on his week-old wife-beater shirt looped under his matted armpit hair. Suddenly, dealing with the skunk felt like a stroll through a goddamn rose garden. All right. So, like I said, short today, because I don't want to give too much away. This is a really good story. It is short, but it's very powerful. And this is Man of the House by Bridget Collins. Both of the readings this week are from that first edition of the MCB Quarterly, our new e-magazine from Mischief Corner Books. You can check that out at the Mischief Corner Books website. It's also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and, all the usual places. And I'll have the links below. We also did a reading a while ago from Avalon. That's by J. Scott Coatsworth, who is a fine new writer who does a lot of science fiction and fantasy. This particular one was magical realism, and I'm going to link that below too, so you have that reading if you want that. But check out the magazine. We will have more coming this year, and we hope to be able to bring you lots more great stories. So thanks for coming. Thanks for listening.